Hey, what's up, United? Pastor Luke here. Hey, I just wanted to share a fascinating story that I came across the other day. Apparently, there was this guy who invented this device. It was called the Trafodata. And the whole idea behind this device is that it would process data from traffic registries. It would process that, compile it all together, and then help with traffic flow and congestion so that the roads would be more clear throughout different parts of the day. Well, this happened several years ago. The man who invented it, he had a demo, a display of his piece of art, this project, if you will. Well, as he was about to sell it for the very first time, in the demonstration, it broke down and failed. Therefore, that device sold exactly 0 copies. The whole business, the whole company was a complete flop. It didn't work. And so the guy took that lesson, took that failure, took that idea, and he transitioned on to make a new company several years later. Well, that company would end up making the very first personal computer and software. You know it to be Microsoft. That guy was Bill Gates. And I found it incredibly fascinating. This guy took a failure, it took his dream dying for him to step into this whole new world, this whole new life, this whole new company. And really, I think that's the same for you and I sometimes. Sometimes like our idea or sometimes our dream has to die so that we can step into like a better way or a better idea or a better dream. And let me illustrate that with telling you a little story in the Bible. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with a character named Abraham. Well, God had a conversation with Abraham one night, and he told Abraham, you will become the father of many nations, meaning that you will have so many different inheritance, you will have so many different people and children come from your line, come from your family tree. Well, at that time, Abraham didn't have any sons. Later we know that he would try to find ways to go about this process his own way, but yet one day God would provide him a son named Isaac. Isaac was his son. This was a dream that had been fulfilled. But then there comes a point in Abraham's life where God tells him to sacrifice his very son. And so Abraham goes on a little stroll with his son up to the mountain. And here's what happens. It's in Genesis chapter 22. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and get this, he took the knife to slay his son. That's crazy to me. He took out a knife. He's about to kill his son. This is the same idea. This is the son through which he believes that he's going to have so many different generations come from. Through Isaac, he's about to kill him. Right in that moment, an angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Don't lay a hand on the boy. Don't do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you haven't withheld from me your son, your only son. That is an incredible story to me. But get this, Abraham had to come to that point where he was willing to let his dream die. Essentially, his own son die so that God could then give him his dreams and his visions for his life. And ultimately, it was really that point of sacrifice that then God allowed that life to be spared so that the dream could be fulfilled. He could become the father of many nations. And so here I am to tell you and I, we might be in those same spots. You might have had a dream die. You might have had an idea die. You might have had a failure, an obstacle in your life that you have faced. But here's the good news. Not all failures end with a period. Sometimes they're a comma or a ... And just like Abraham's story, it was a ... because God would fulfill a greater vision and a greater dream for his life by just having that dream on the altar. So, for you and I, you might have had a relationship go a very different way than you thought it might happen. You might have had a career trajectory that hasn't gone the way you thought. Or perhaps maybe you didn't advance in school the way you would have liked. Sometimes your dream has to die so that God can allow you to step into His dream for you. That's the good news, and that's what we get from Scripture. So thank you again for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed it. I'll get back to you next time. We'll see you then.